Welcome to Specific Love. In this video, I'm showing you how we successfully did some steam bending by first building the box and second the process it took to get there. Let's begin. Now for this project, I'm going to be using cedar pickets. You can pick these up relatively inexpensive at the big box stores. They come in about 6 feet long, which works out great for this project. And since they're cedar, they should be rot resistant. So I need 4 of these. A few things to look out for when you're selecting your pieces. If you want something smooth, well, in most of these, you're not going to get smoothing. A little bit here, but you're going to have to do some of your own sanding if you want them nice and pretty. Look out for the knots, because you don't want any large knots. These don't go all the way through, so I'm not concerned about them. And look at the edges. This is smooth, and this one is not real smooth, but I can make sure this is an outside edge, so I'm not concerned about it. So that's just a few things to look out for in your wood. Now I want this box to be able to handle 4-foot long pieces. So I'm cutting all these cedar pickets down to about 50 inches, and that should give me a little bit of leeway just in case. Don't throw these away, because we'll be using this for something else too. Now remember, we need to categorize which boards have the roughest edges and which boards have the smoothest. The ones that are rough will be on the sides, and the ones that are smooth will be on the top and the bottom. Now once we've determined the 2 side pieces, we need to get everything prepped for some dowels. We want to install some dowels on the inside of the 2 boards here that will raise whatever we're steaming up off of the base, and that will allow steam to get to the bottom of the board and allow it to get a little bit higher in the box, which should be hotter as well. Now I'm just using 7/16 inch dowels. It's what I had on hand, but try and stay somewhere around 1/2 inch or larger, and that'll allow it to resist bending or breaking once you put stuff in it to be steamed. Now to give plenty of strength, I'm going to start a dowel at the 2-inch mark and then every 6 inches after that. Now I'm going to drill out each of these holes with the same size bit, but I've marked it with some tape because I don't want the drill or the hole to go all the way through the board. We only want it to go partially in to hold the dowel, that way we don't lose steam. Now that we have all the holes drilled in the sides, we need to figure out the length of each of the dowels. To do this is pretty simple. If you take the dowel and you drop it into one of the holes you just drilled, mark that with a pencil, then you'll know to double that size there, and then add it to the width of the board here. And that will be the exact length of the dowel you need. Now that we have all the dowels cut, I just did a quick pre-assembly here just to make sure everything's gonna fit. I just have some basic clamps on the ends just to hold it together, but let's see if the top is going to fit together as well. We're gonna make sure this is not too tight of a fit, but getting tight enough so nothing moves around. So let's see, if we squeeze the top together now, that should work nicely. Now this is the moment you need to decide if you're going to glue this together or if you're just going to leave it loose. I personally am not going to glue it because I want to have the ability in the future if something breaks, or if I want to take this apart and make it larger, or just modify it in any way that I can easily take it back apart and do it as is. So I'm just going to straighten everything out, make sure everything's nice and even on the ends, and we're going to add a bunch of screws to top and bottom to make sure we can get these fully secured. And then just repeat the process for the other side. Then we want to sand down all these joints here just to make sure everything is nice and flat. Now the end that's going to be the back side, we want to cover this. Not permanently, but we want to put another piece of wood on it. So we're going to take one of the scrap pieces that we had left over. We're going to measure it out, cut this to size, and then screw it on. Now since this is nice and smooth and this is rough, I am going to sand this down just a little bit so it's a little bit better of a fit. And before I install this, I have to drill one more hole right about center to install this fitting so I can let the steam come in. Now I've cut out one more piece the same size as the end, but we're not screwing this on. This is going to be the door. So once I had everything lined up, I took a pencil and made some marks across the back here. That way, in case I move it around, I can line it right back up to those marks and everything is realigned where I wanted it. We're going to be attaching this door here with some 1.5 inch hinges. Now that we have the door on, I'm going to be adding a latch to the side here to help keep everything closed. Now I'm going to add some weather stripping all the way around the edge of this door, just give it a little bit better of a seal. This is 1/16 of an inch, so it should hopefully not cause any problems with closing. Now we need to make some legs for this setup, so I'm going to use some of the leftovers we had earlier. I'm going to glue all these together and then cut them to size. Now while that's drying, we actually need to drill 2 more holes into our box. This is the back and the bottom of the box, and I need to drill a hole right here, almost about center. And that's so as condensation builds up inside, it has a way of dripping out, so it doesn't build up and just have a puddle of water inside your box. And at the other end of the box, we actually need to drill a small hole at the bottom of the front door. And that has allowed the steam to rise and exit through this vent so that it has clear path across all of the wood. Now some people add a 3rd hole right in the top of the box near the front. That is so they can add a meat thermometer and know the exact temperature. I'm not going to do that for this project, but I can always add that in the future. Now that we've given this some time to dry, we're actually going to be turning this into the legs. I've trued up this one side back here because it's going to sit over on our box and you want it to be relatively flat. But the other sides, I'm not all too concerned about. You can always go back and trim those up if you'd like, but that's totally up to you. Our next step is to take a hole saw. This is a 3-inch saw, and we're going to trim a circle right out of the middle of these. Then we're going to cut this circle right in half. Now we're going to take a measurement of this leg, which is about 3.5 inches, and we're going to add 1 inch of that. So we're going to cut 4.5 off of this one. Now we want to make sure the long leg is at the front and the short one's at the back, so that way as the steam is coming in, the steam will want to rise and go toward the front of the box, steaming what you have up there. Now I probably should attach these legs to the box before I assembled everything, but you can always unscrew all these screws and attach these through the box. That way it'll go in directly into the top. But I'm not going to do that. I'm actually just going to drill some pocket holes and attach it from the bottom. Now for this setup, I actually bought a steam generator. It's a little kit that comes with all the tubing and everything you need within one package. And you don't have to go this way. You can do really simple. You could take this outside, build you a small little campfire, put your large pot on it, and funnel everything into the box. So for that matter, you could just have an open range and you could put a pot on top of there, heat up the water, and again, funnel it into the box. But considering I'm gonna be doing this in my shop, I didn't want an open flame, and I didn't want anything overly hot that I could easily burn myself on while I'm moving around doing other stuff. So I bought one of these. Now to hopefully improve the process, I put the steam generator on the floor so that as steam rises, hopefully it'll go to the box quicker. And I've insulated with a couple 2x4s to keep it off my cold floor. Now as the steam generator is starting to pump up some steam, in fact, you probably can hear it in the background. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna be using. This is about 3 inches wide and about 1/4 inch thick. I'm pretty sure it is a hardwood, so that'd be good test on that one. And the secondary piece, this is just a piece of pine. It's about 4 feet long, slightly thicker, and about 3/4 of an inch wide. It's also a good idea to have some kind of a little container back here so as this drips, it doesn't get all over your stuff. All right, it's starting to build up some steam, so let's open this and stick our wood in. Whew, watch out. This might be a little bit hard to see, but you can tell right here I did not get the wood fully sealed, so I got a bunch of steam coming out here. You can try and seal that if you want, but I think it'll be okay. Now the wood has been cooking for about 45 minutes. They suggest about 1 hour per inch, so I have definitely overcooked these, but that's okay. I didn't want to take any chances. I've set up some 2-inch PVC here. I'm gonna take one of these out and see if I can wrap it around here real easily. Now this piece of wood is definitely not taking to it as easily. It has kinked a little bit and I could hear it starting to crack. Man, I can see some very minor cracks going on the back here. So this definitely did not like it. I'm guessing because this is kiln dried, this is not a great idea. All right, now let's try this second one. I have a feeling it's gonna do the same thing because it's even thicker than the first one. And it just cracked right off the bat there. You can see this. I definitely did not steam these long enough, so we need to do this a little bit longer. Now after a few minutes, I'll look back at the original piece that I had done, and if you look at it, I mean, it has definitely taken that shape of that bend, and it is not flexing or going back to the original. So the concept is working. I just don't believe I left it in there long enough, or maybe I was losing just a little bit too much heat out of some of the cracks. So we need to retry this. Also, I have a feeling that the 2-inch pipe that I was trying to wrap this 1/4-inch piece of wood around was probably just a little bit too sharp of an angle, and that is probably part of the reason why it was cracking. Alright, for this next attempt, I'm again going to try a 1/4-inch piece of wood, see if I can get that to actually flex and hold again. And then I cut down some extra pieces here. These are just under 1/8 of an inch, and these are about a 1/16 of an inch. And that way I should be able to, once I get them fully heated, I can go that far with them, but I should be able to wrap it around that PVC, and hopefully they'll hold that angle. For this second attempt, I resealed around the door. I think it helped a little bit better keeping some of that steam inside. I also kept this wood in here a little bit longer, more like an hour to an hour and a half, so let's look at the results. Now with the success of this thinner wood, I wanted to try the next step up. This was just under 1/8 of an inch, and as you can see, it did not work as well. It ended up cracking on me when I was trying to wrap it around this 2-inch pipe. So I tried a little bit larger. This is 4-inch to see how well it would do. Let's take it off the form. And that did quite nicely. So definitely a limitation. You can't do the smaller wood. I guess it might be possible if you steam this for a really long time, but this was not successful on the 2-inch pipe, but it did work well around the 4-inch. So that is definitely success there. Now remember the first 1/4-inch board I tried to wrap around? It stayed somewhat. So in this case, I tried a completely different type of a form for it. This is actually just a 2x4 I cut a little bit of a shape into. And let's take this out of this form and see how well this will do. Now you will have to tighten this really tight and get it to take the shape. And I probably could have steamed this a little bit longer to get it to form even better. But overall, at about an hour and a half, let's see what it looks like. There we go. It formed it nicely. It didn't have the cracking across the back like it did on this first one, but it did definitely took the shape. You can see some odd shape curve right there as well. That's just because the form didn't go all the way across. So there, 1/4-inch wood, minor curves, definitely a success. Now up until this point, all of the wood I've used has been kiln dried. That means it's been put into a really heat tempered process to remove all of the moisture, thus making it a lot harder to bend it as I've been doing. So I wanted to take something that was different, some air dried wood, which is just naturally put out, and just the regular air pulls out some of the moisture, but it still has a higher concentration than this. So I cut down a piece of air dried ash. Ash is supposed to be really hard wood once it is fully cured, but I put it through the steam bending process and I was easily able to wrap it around the 2-inch pipe. Now keep in mind this is the same thickness as this piece that easily broke. It's also much thicker, so you'd think if it was going to give, it would easily crack. So let's take it out of the form here, and there you go. Very nice, it has taken the shape, nice little U or N or whatever you like, so keep that in mind. If you want to do steam bending, try and get wood that is just air dried, you probably have a lot more success. Now of course this video was a little bit different than my normal builds, so I hope as we learned, you got to learn and it inspired you to get out in your shop and have fun building. Alright, let's knock this one out of the park. And that, the bat, now some people put a third box, inch or larger in the box. Sure that says it. That is the yeah. Let's try it again. Perfect. Now the meat thermometer, three thermometer. Wow, I cannot talk right now. Words are really hard today. Good gracious.